Dale, Lieutenant Governor Neon, do you have any idea how much I had to pay for a standing ovation? My mother had a few expressions that have been very impressive upon my own heart and life. The first was, charity begins at home. Can you imagine trying to raise 5 boys and foster charity in that household? She was trying to teach us, you need to love your brothers, and of course our parents, at home, and then from there that love goes outwardly. I am so grateful to God that South Dakota is my home. Because when I was in the embryo in the state of Minnesota, that what once was home is no longer what we just recited not long ago. One nation under God, indivisible and with liberty for all. As you may be aware, Minnesota and so many other states, even some of our very pro-life states, have lost significant ground and battle on the legislative level to protect life. And so the importance for us to remember that charity begins at home. Charity, another word for that, is love, which seeks the good of the other. I'd love to have all of the, anybody who's expecting that feels comfortable standing up, any child who's 2 years or under, or their parents, if they would just rise, because we were just talking about the 1,000 days and how impressive those days are. Could we have all the little babies and the 2-year-olds held up that we have with us today? I know we have several of them here. We have some back here. Quite see everybody up on top. So we thank you. Thank you for your openness to life. Another expression my mother had, keep in mind I was born before Roe versus Wade was in place. Some 64 million babies since lost their lives. Not only am I grateful to my mother, I'm grateful that our country at that time had such a beautiful respect for the dignity of every human life. Not just at the moment of conception, but every stage of life. I remember my mother telling me when I got to that age, something her mother had told her. Her mother said, I would rather have a child on my lap than on my conscience. My grandmother knew the dignity of life. Not just the unborn. You see, I had an uncle who was born severely disabled all of his life. Could never walk, feed himself, get out of bed, take care of himself, feed anything. And my grandmother and my grandfather tended to him at home for all those years because they understood the dignity of every single human life. And how important it is that we, those of us, we are so blessed to know and to experience the gift of those with special needs in our life, or the aged, as they are tended to, the unborn. What an incredible gift life is. I always love it. Last night I happened to be in a church celebrating Mass, and there was all kinds of little ruckus from kids. And I think, thanks be to God. Thanks be to God for that beautiful gift. Those words of my grandmother to my mother have also left a deep impression upon me. And now at this time, how important that we all rally together. As I was driving up to Pier today, I was thinking, maybe we are not currently one nation under God, indivisible in liberty with justice for all, especially the unborn. But what can we be? And yes, we can. One state under God, indivisible, and with liberty and justice for all. What that means is, even if there's various perspectives on the best way to protect life, to be able to rally everybody together going the same direction. Whatever the past was, it was. But now letting God unite all of our hearts and our minds, regardless of faith traditions, regardless of perspectives, even legislatively or personally, that we might have. We all need to be united as one. So may South Dakota be one state under God, always honoring the dignity of human life by respecting the author of life, God himself, and the only one who has the right to call a soul home. I think sometimes it's easy for us to forget we're not just, for some people perhaps, we're not just dealing with human flesh. We're dealing with someone who's made in the image and likeness of God, someone who has an inherent dignity and an immortal soul. And that's why I feel so bad for those who advocate for abortion, or even those who've had abortions. And I've been privileged to work with a number of people who've had abortions and afterwards realizing the impact that it had on them when they realize what they have done. And how we can love them, and we must love them. Tend to moms, tend to children, to dads, to kids, to those who had abortions, those who are willing to realize, I was wrong and I'm sorry. We love them as they are, as if they were one of our very own. Because we know there are many who have had abortions. And it's not to shame or to drive them away, but to remember that charity begins at home. And we love them with kindness and with charity. While some might think in our nation that South Dakota is a mere flyover country or flyover state, I am proud and grateful that it is now my home state. The state where we still have protections for the sanctity of life. But as we know, especially those of you who've been out on the front lines, for example, with the Defense Life Fund and all the other organizations, you know the battle we're up against. The efforts to change our Constitution so that even the legislature could not affect or change, and John can speak more about that. We can't change it if it's set into the Constitution, that is, if abortion is put in. And some of you, and that's why I want to offer words of encouragement for you who are here. It's like preaching to the choir, all the good souls who have come and who love and advocate for life. I remind us of those words of St. Paul. I am content with weakness, insults, hardships, persecutions, and calamities. For when I am weak, then I am strong. My brothers and sisters, we will be strong and grow stronger when we all unite as one around pro-life, and we call upon God and beg for the graces we need to have him help fight the evil that is heavily influencing people in our state today. Those who are speaking and trying to get people to sign this so they can get it on the ballot, this constitutional amendment, by deceptive and untruthful ways, and not reflecting upon, once it happens, the impact to conscientious souls. We know that God is love, and so as we learn charity at home, as we unite together in charity, and as I'm hearing already such great things, and I want to honor you, all of you legislators, Lieutenant Governor, and staff, I want to thank you for the great progress that you've already made, and the governor for her beautiful proclamation. Do we realize how blessed we are compared to the rest of the nation? We are so very, very blessed. Because we are blessed, when much has been given to us, like we have the appreciation for life, like you might each have your own stories and your own experiences of why life is so dear to you, we must continue to spread the message so that others too come to experience deeply within their hearts Perhaps something like I experienced in my life, seeing my grandparents and others tend to my uncle so kindly and so charitably. Though he had so little to give to the world, he never worked a day in his life. But I believe that he worked harder than even me, because he spent a lot of time in prayer. And we discovered in our family that when we really wanted something, we knew who to ask to pray for. It was Donnie. And it was amazing the things that happened. And we knew that he had a highway to heaven. We knew that he had a special fondness, God, and God had a special fondness for him. He once said to me, I want to be a priest. I can't be a priest. You be a priest. I pray that you be a priest. I knew then it was all over. There's no more discernment for me. My pathway is set. And I wrestled with God, but God and Donnie won. And I thank God for that today. I thank God. I thank God for all of you who have stood so strongly for life and continue to do that. Not only those of you who are here, but others who perhaps were not able to make it today. We are at a decisive time in our state. And as was said so beautifully earlier, we were hoping that if Roe versus Wade would be reversed just like good, we can finally get a rest. This is not the time to rest. But if our strength is God, if our strength is God, we will have everything we need for whatever lies ahead. And the battle will be difficult. It is difficult. But God is greater than any force of evil and any deception. But we must make the deceptions known in the world that we live in. Let's pray for the grace to stand strong, to be true, to support our legislators who are working so hard to establish those things even more clearly about what the dignity of human life is. As we know, South Dakota's laws began protecting all human life. Some of our civil leaders have faced a lot of pressure to try to weaken our laws. I think we owe them our particular word of gratitude for stepping into the breach and standing from here, the voices of the little ones, in the marketplaces. Thank you. In our capital, in our churches, in our homes, in our neighborhoods. God indeed has great things for South Dakota. He has great things. But we are to be the ambassadors of that light, like the torchbearers at the Olympics. We need the front runners. That's you and so many others. And it's in that I have tremendous gratitude. So I invite you to join me in prayers and advocacy early and often. Charity begins at home. And I'd rather have a child on my lap than on my conscience. God bless America and all of us who love life as God made it to be.